I had been planning it for months. Back in July, when the tickets first went on sale, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed two immediately. One for me, one for Claire. Max Collins was this new, up-and-coming singer from our area, and he was quickly gaining traction. His voice was smooth, his stage presence magnetic, and the way he wrote his lyrics, something about it just clicked with Claire. She'd been talking about him nonstop for weeks. His song, Into the Night, had been on repeat in our house for what felt like ages. It seemed like the perfect night to do something nice for her. Claire and I had been together for years. We'd hit a rough patch lately, sure, but we had our good moments too. I thought maybe the concert would be a way for us to reconnect. Things had been tense between us, but I was determined to make it work. This concert was supposed to be the highlight of the month. Just me and her, a night out enjoying some music. She was all in from the start. "Oh my God, Max Collins? He's everything. I've been dying to see him live," she'd exclaim when I told her about the tickets. Claire had always been that way, passionate, intense. She loved her music, and when she was into something, she was all in. So I thought I was doing the right thing. But there was this feeling, this weird, nagging feeling I couldn't shake. Over the past few months, Claire had been acting different. It started off small. Little things like when she'd get home late and say she was with her friends, but she never mentioned exactly where. Then it was the random texting, constantly on her phone, even during dinner or when we were trying to have a conversation. And when I'd ask her about it, she'd brush it off. "Just checking in with some people," she'd say. "Why are you being so paranoid?" It wasn't like I didn't trust her, but something about the secrecy was starting to get to me. And the weirdest part? Every time I asked her about it, she'd get defensive, almost like she was covering something up. It felt like I was the only one in the relationship who still cared about us, but I kept pushing those thoughts aside. Maybe I was overthinking it. After all, she still said she loved me. So I didn't dig any deeper, at least not until I saw the ticket confirmation. I guess deep down, I knew this night wouldn't be as simple as it seemed. Maybe I was starting to see the cracks in the facade, but I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to think the best of Claire, so I focused on the good things. Like how excited she was for the concert. How she'd spent days picking out the perfect outfit. How she was practically glowing as she talked about it. The night of the concert arrived, and I tried my best to forget about the unease that had been building inside me for months. Claire was dressed to the nines in a black leather jacket and skinny jeans, her makeup perfect. I couldn't deny that she looked stunning. She had this way of commanding attention wherever she went. We made our way to the venue, the excitement palpable in the air. I was looking forward to the concert myself. Max Collins had talent, and maybe, just maybe, a night out would help put everything back on track for us. But as we stood in line, Claire's phone buzzed in her hand. I couldn't see who it was, but I noticed the way her face changed when she read the message. It was subtle, but it was there. A small tightening of her lips, a flicker of something I couldn't quite place. She quickly shoved the phone into her bag, but it felt off. At the concert, the energy was insane. Max Collins was everything Claire had hyped him up to be. He had the crowd in the palm of his hand, and Claire was completely mesmerized by him. I couldn't blame her. His voice was powerful, his charisma infectious. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just a bystander in this whole night. Claire was barely paying attention to me anymore, her focus entirely on Max. She even leaned over to whisper in my ear, "I think I'm in love with him." I laughed it off, but inside, I was annoyed. I knew she was joking, but there was something about the way she said it that didn't sit right with me. Was she starting to fall for him? Or had she already fallen? After the concert, Claire was buzzing. "We have to meet him backstage. I can't believe it. He's everything I thought he'd be," she gushed as we made our way to the backstage entrance. The tickets I'd gotten included a chance to meet Max Collins, and I figured it would make her night. The excitement in her eyes made me feel a bit better, even though something in the back of my mind was still telling me this night would be anything but normal. The backstage area was dimly lit, filled with a low murmur of excited fans and staff. We waited near a corner while they ushered people in. I didn't expect much, just a brief interaction, maybe an autograph or a selfie, nothing too extravagant. But when Claire got called in to meet Max, something in me shifted. I followed, not wanting to be left out of the moment, but I also couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. As soon as Claire walked into that dressing room, I could see it. Max was standing there, shirt off, his chest glistening with sweat from the performance. He had that effortless charm, flashing her a smile that made my gut twist. Claire smiled back, and in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just a harmless meet and greet. There was more to it, and I had no idea how deep this was going to go. The moment I stepped into that dressing room, I knew I had made a huge mistake. Claire was already standing there, talking to Max like they were old friends. I could tell she was enjoying every second of it. The way she laughed at his jokes, the way she smiled at him. It wasn't just admiration. It was something else, something too familiar. I had seen that look in her eyes before, and it wasn't directed at me. It was directed at him. Max was all charm and confidence, leaning casually against the table, his shirt half off as he spoke to Claire. I couldn't even remember what they were talking about. It didn't matter. My focus was on Claire, and the way she was hanging on every word he said. Something inside me snapped. I felt like I was invisible, standing there as they carried on, laughing like I wasn't even in the room. "Hey, babe, why don't you get a picture with Max?" Claire suggested, her voice almost too sweet. But I could hear the edge in it, the subtle way she tried to make it sound casual, like everything was fine. But I could feel the tension building between us, thick and suffocating. I forced a smile and nodded, pretending everything was okay. We took the picture, with Claire standing way too close to Max for comfort. She practically melted into him, her body language telling a story I didn't want to read. And when she turned to me, grinning from ear to ear, I saw it in her eyes, the look of someone who was getting exactly what she wanted, and I wasn't part of the equation. As we left the dressing room, I was simmering, my mind racing. It felt like we had just walked into a trap, and I had been too blinded by my own desire to fix things to notice. Claire's excitement was palpable, and she couldn't stop talking about how amazing Max was. It was like I was listening to a different person, a person who wasn't married to me, a person who was infatuated with someone else. We left the venue, and on the way back to the car, Claire kept texting someone. I didn't want to be the jealous husband, so I didn't ask who it was. But as we drove, my gut twisted with every ping of her phone. I couldn't help but feel like she was hiding something. Maybe it was just my paranoia, but it felt too intentional. She had checked her phone multiple times during the concert, not once offering an explanation, and now she was glued to it again. "Who are you texting?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Claire glanced at me, then at her phone, quickly locking it before slipping it into her purse. "Just a friend," she said, her voice light, but there was a hint of something off, like she was trying to deflect my question. "Who's the friend?" I pressed, trying to keep my voice steady, though I was starting to lose my patience. I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my stomach any longer. It felt like I was being kept in the dark. "Just someone from work," she replied too quickly, avoiding eye contact. No big deal. But it wasn't just no big deal. I could feel the lie in her voice, and the more she tried to cover it up, the more I knew something was wrong. We got home, and I tried to shake it off, tried to pretend like everything was fine. I made us both a drink, hoping the alcohol would dull the tension. Claire had changed into something more comfortable, but even in sweatpants, she still looked stunning. I hated myself for feeling this way, but I couldn't help it. I was suspicious, more than suspicious. My gut was telling me I wasn't crazy. Something was happening, something I couldn't put my finger on yet. We sat on the couch, but I wasn't really listening to her as she continued to talk about Max. My mind was somewhere else. I kept thinking about the look she had in that dressing room, how she couldn't tear her eyes away from him, and the way she had been acting all night, distracted, almost as if she were waiting for something. It wasn't until later that night, when Claire went to take a shower, that everything finally came together. I had gone into our bedroom to grab something from the dresser when I saw it. Her phone was sitting on the nightstand, screen face up. I never snooped through her phone, but this time, something made me do it. I picked it up, my hands shaking as I unlocked it with the passcode I knew by heart. The messages were all there. From him. It wasn't just casual chatter. Max had been texting her all night, making plans to meet after the concert. He was asking her when she could get away, when she could come see him alone. One message even said, "I can't wait to see you again tonight. I've been thinking about you all day." The anger burned through me, but it wasn't just anger. It was betrayal. Claire was cheating on me, not just with some random guy, but with Max Collins, the singer I had practically worshipped in an attempt to fix our marriage. The singer she had been swooning over for months. And then I saw the one message that broke me. "Meet me in the dressing room after the show. I'm not letting you leave without being with me." Everything clicked. She had lied to me about her phone. She had lied to me about the friend she was texting. And now, I was reading proof of her affair. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was right in front of me. When she came out of the shower, I was still sitting on the bed, her phone in my hand. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her, and she must have known, because the moment our eyes met, she froze. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked, her voice defensive, but she could see it in my eyes. The truth was out. The silence between us hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Claire's face shifted from confusion to realization, and then to panic. She knew I had found something. I could see it in the way her eyes darted to her phone, the way her breath caught in her throat. She wasn't stupid. She knew what was coming. I held her phone up, the screen still glowing with the messages. "Care to explain this?" I asked, my voice cold and steady, but inside, I was raging. Claire's face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out at first. Then, she shook her head, as if she were trying to convince herself that none of this was real. "It's not what you think," she finally stammered, her voice shaking. I was just being friendly with him. He's just a fan. He doesn't mean anything to me. It's just harmless flirtation." "Harmless flirtation?" I repeated, incredulous. "You're telling me that sending messages like, 'I've been thinking about you all day,' is harmless flirtation? Or how about, 'I'm not letting you leave without being with me'? Is that harmless too?" Her face twisted in frustration as she stepped forward, trying to grab the phone from my hands. "Stop it. You don't understand. I didn't mean for it to happen, okay? It just did," she snapped, her voice rising in pitch. I didn't let her take the phone. "Didn't mean for it to happen? You've been lying to me for months, Claire. You've been sneaking around, acting like nothing's wrong. And all along, you've been fucking this guy." My chest tightened as the words came out, the sting of betrayal hitting harder than anything I had ever felt before. She took a step back, and I could see her mind racing, looking for an escape from this mess she had made. "I swear it was just one time. We didn't do anything. One time, I cut her off." "So, you expect me to believe that? That you've been texting him, meeting him, and nothing's happened? What, did you think I wouldn't find out? Do you think I'm that stupid?" Her face turned red, a mix of embarrassment and anger. "You don't know anything about what it's like. You don't understand what it's like to be with you," she screamed, her voice turning hysterical. "You've been so distant. You never listen to me. You just go to work and come home like everything's fine. But nothing's fine. You don't care about me anymore. You never have. Max makes me feel wanted. He sees me. He listens to me. And you. Stop. Right there." I snapped, my voice low but full of fury. "This is the excuse you've been telling yourself? That I didn't care about you enough? That it's somehow my fault you cheated?" She was shaking now, pacing back and forth in a frenzy. "No, that's not what I meant. I needed something. Something more. I thought." She broke off, collapsing onto the bed, her hands covering her face in a mix of shame and frustration. The tears started, and they came fast. "I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I made a mistake, okay? A huge mistake. But I love you. I do. Please don't leave me. Please." Her words stung like acid, but I couldn't let them sink in. I couldn't be fooled anymore. "You love me?" I repeated, my voice icy. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have been sneaking around behind my back, lying to me every chance you got. I'm not some idiot you can walk all over, Claire. I saw the shift in her then, the way her face twisted from sorrow to anger. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to hurt you? Max made me feel special. Okay? You've been so caught up in your own stuff. I tried, I really did, but nothing was ever enough for you. It's not my fault. It's your fault. Her voice broke as she shouted the last part, the blame shifting onto me, as if somehow I was responsible for her actions. I couldn't even respond. The words were meaningless. She had already made her decision, and I had made mine. I had put up with her behavior for too long. She had crossed the line, and now I was the one who was done. I grabbed my jacket, my hands trembling with anger. I'm done. I'm leaving. And you can keep your lies. You can keep Max. You deserve each other. Claire's face crumpled in desperation. Please don't go. I'll fix it. I swear I will. Just don't leave me. But I couldn't listen to her anymore. She had already made her choice, and I wasn't part of it. I walked out of the room without another word, and for the first time in months, I felt a sense of clarity. This was over. It wasn't enough to just walk away. It wasn't enough to leave her to her lies, her excuses. No, I needed more. She needed to feel the weight of what she had done. The betrayal, the humiliation. Claire wasn't going to get away with this without facing some consequences. I've been patient for too long, too blind, too forgiving. But now I had a plan, and Max Collins was going to be the one who paid for this too. The first thing I did was call a few of my close friends, ones I knew would understand the gravity of what had happened. I told them everything, how Claire had been sneaking around with Max, how she'd lied to me for months, and how I'd found out. They were shocked, of course, but they all knew something wasn't right. They rallied behind me, offering support, but more importantly, they knew how to make sure the whole world knew the truth. I didn't just want Claire to know I was done. I wanted Max to know too. I wanted him to see what he had done. I wanted to drag him down with her. I wasn't going to let him sit back and pretend like he was some innocent bystander in this mess. He'd been texting her, setting up their secret meetings, making her feel special while I was left in the dark. Well, it was time for Max Collins to feel the heat. The next day, I went straight to social media. I wasn't going to let this slip away into the background. I posted screenshots of the texts, every one of them, exposing their secret affair. The messages were there for anyone to see. I added a few words of my own. This is what happens when you put your trust in the wrong people. The truth is out. It didn't take long for people to notice. Within hours, my post was shared hundreds of times. The scandal spread like wildfire. People started tagging Max in the comments, asking if this was true, calling him out for what he'd done. I wasn't the only one who had a story to tell. Other fans started sharing their own experiences about how Max had flirted with them, how he had crossed boundaries with other women too. The floodgates opened. By the time I showed up to the bar that evening with my friends, the entire city was talking about it. Max Collins, local rising star, the singer whose name was on everyone's lips, had just become the center of a scandal he couldn't escape from. And that wasn't all. The next part of my plan was to make sure Claire couldn't just slink away either. I knew I couldn't trust her to come clean. She'd lie, deny, and manipulate. I had to do something more, something that would hit her where it hurt the most. So, I reached out to her boss. I sent an email. No message too kind, no apology necessary. I made sure to detail everything. How Claire had been sneaking out of work early, how she'd been taking personal days she didn't deserve, and of course, how she had been completely distracted by her affair with Max Collins. I included the screenshots of the text messages, the ones where Claire had tried to convince Max to meet her after work hours, lying about where she was going. I made sure to emphasize that she had been using her job as a cover for her escapades. It was cold, calculated, but at that point I didn't care. Claire had shown me exactly who she was, and now I was showing her the consequences. The next morning, she called me in a panic. "Did you seriously send that email?" she screamed, her voice cracking with a mixture of anger and fear. "You're ruining my life, you bastard. How could you do this to me?" I leaned back in my chair, my eyes on the screen, watching as the notifications continued to roll in. "You did this to yourself, Claire. I'm just making sure everyone knows who you really are. No more lies. No more pretending. Her voice wavered as she tried to defend herself, but nothing she said could cover up what had already been exposed. You don't understand. I made a mistake, okay? I was lonely. I needed something different. Max, he made me feel seen. He made me feel important. Well, guess what? I cut her off, my voice low and cold. You're not important to me anymore. You're nothing but a liar and a cheater, and now everyone knows it. As I hung up, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. I had done it. I had exposed them both for who they really were. I didn't feel sorry for Claire. I didn't feel bad for Max. I had taken control of the situation, and now they had to face the music. The fallout was fast. The next day, Max's social media accounts were flooded with angry comments. People weren't just angry at Claire, they were furious with him too. His fans, those who had bought his albums, attended his concerts, were now turning their backs on him. The whole city was in an uproar. It wasn't long before Max Collins did the one thing I was hoping he would do. He canceled his upcoming shows. He posted a tearful apology video on social media, claiming he was taking time to reflect on his actions and stepping away from the public eye. The comments on that post were savage. People called him a coward, a disgrace. His career was unraveling, piece by piece, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice. But the real kicker came when Claire's boss called her into the office. I wasn't there to hear it, but I could guess what happened. I knew that she was going to be fired. There was no way they were going to keep her after everything had come to light. The company had a reputation to protect, and Claire had just tarnished it beyond repair. By the time I received the call from her, her voice desperate, broken, pleading for me to come back, I was already well past the point of caring. She had made her bed, and now she was lying in it. I had no intention of going back. The phone rang late that night, its shrill sound cutting through the quiet of my apartment. I knew who it was before I even looked at the screen. Claire. Her name lit up, but I couldn't bring myself to answer it. The reality of what she had done, the lies, the betrayal, kept echoing in my mind. But still, I felt a flicker of something inside me, something like pity or maybe just curiosity. What could she possibly say now? What could she say that would make any of this right? I stared at the phone for a long time before finally answering, my voice flat. What do you want? Her voice cracked on the other end, hoarse from crying. I can't do this. I can't lose everything. Not like this. Please, please, just let me explain. I didn't interrupt her. There was nothing she could say that would change anything. But I let her talk, listening as she tried to twist the story, once again claiming that Max was just a mistake, that she had been confused, that I was the one who didn't understand her needs. She blamed everything, her loneliness, the distance between us, even the stress at work. She tried to make it seem like it wasn't her fault, that she was just reacting to circumstances. But I wasn't buying it anymore. Stop, I said, my voice rising slightly. You're still lying. You've been lying to me the entire time. You didn't just make a mistake, Claire. You've been planning this, sneaking around behind my back. You made a choice, and now you're facing the consequences. She didn't argue. She knew I was right. But that didn't stop her from begging, from pleading with me to give her another chance. I'll fix it, she sobbed. I'll do anything. I'll make it right. Just please don't leave me. I love you. I swear, I love you. I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the noise of her desperation. Love? Love didn't look like this. Love didn't lie and cheat. Love didn't betray someone who trusted them. Claire wasn't the woman I had married. She wasn't even close. She was someone else, someone I didn't recognize anymore. I don't care, I said coldly. You ruined everything. You destroyed us. You'll have to live with that, Claire. There was a long silence on the other end before she finally spoke again, her voice weak. So that's it? You're really done with me? I didn't answer right away. I thought about the past few months, the endless hours of trying to hold things together, the countless times I had ignored my gut, trying to convince myself things would get better. But it hadn't. And now, everything was exposed for what it truly was. Yeah, I said finally. It's over. For good. I hung up before she could say anything more. It wasn't out of anger. It was out of necessity. I had to cut her off completely, or I'd be stuck in this toxic cycle forever. The next few days felt like a blur. The city was still buzzing with the aftermath of the scandal. Max Collins' career was in freefall, and Claire's reputation had been shredded. Her boss had called, as I had expected. She was fired, effective immediately. Her calls and texts went unanswered, and the friends she thought she had were suddenly nowhere to be found. I felt no satisfaction in her downfall, only emptiness. What had we even been doing all this time? How could we have gotten so lost? It wasn't until I saw Max's final apology video that I realized how far everything had spiraled. The video was his last attempt to salvage some dignity, but the damage had already been done. People weren't buying it. The public was unforgiving, and his career, a promising one not long ago, was officially over. There was no coming back from this. Watching it, I couldn't help but feel a small sense of justice. He was no longer the golden boy he'd once been, and Claire's involvement in his downfall was complete. But even that satisfaction didn't fill the hole inside me. I didn't have the answers. I didn't know how I was supposed to move on from all this. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going back to her. And that was the hardest thing to admit to myself. In the weeks that followed, I focused on picking up the pieces of my life. I started spending more time with friends, diving into my work, and trying to reclaim the sense of self I had lost over the past few months. It wasn't easy. There were days when I still wondered if I had missed something, if there was a way to fix things. But deep down, I knew the answer. I had given her everything. I had trusted her, loved her, tried to build a future with her. But in the end, she had betrayed me. And no amount of apologies or tears could ever change that. I ran into Max a few weeks later, at a bar. He was sitting at the counter, nursing a drink, his eyes dull and defeated. When he saw me, his face darkened, and for a moment, it was like everything came rushing back. The lies, the affair, everything. But I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel rage. I just felt empty. He tried to apologize, but I stopped him before he could finish. It's over, I said simply. You've already lost everything. You don't need to apologize to me. Max nodded silently, his face hardening. I know. I fucked up. Big time. I left him sitting there alone, just as I had been, and I realized then that I didn't need to carry the weight of their betrayal anymore. It was their burden now, and I was free. The rest of my life was waiting for me. What I would do next, I didn't know, but I knew I was done with them both. For good.